Hi there. My name is Dr. Mike Robertson, DC. I'm the founder of Chiro21.com seminars. Our goal is to provide the highest quality, most useful continuing ed content, trying to bring the application of continuing ed all the way into the 21st century for you guys. We only do live online courses. We've been doing that for 3 years. So us putting out a pre-recorded segment is really atypical for what we do, but sometimes you got to step outside of your typical model so that you can provide the profession with information that will help us start making money immediately, especially when we're in something like the middle of a pandemic. So I'm going to jump us over to the slides and we're going to get started because I don't want to waste any of your time. I'm going to make this as quick as humanly possible. The slides will take a minute to load. So we're going to give them a second. While they load, let's get familiar with the space. Over there are the slides we'll be whipping through. Down below are links to the slides that you can download, as well as the AMA article that was released on September 8th regarding this. Below that, link to my company, as well as another article and a recap on this from the AMA. Now that we've got everybody going, let's get through the material. On Tuesday, the 8th, they sped it up, right, and then published a couple new codes. The one that applies to us is 99072. Obviously, there's links throughout, so you can always click on that. It's effective immediately. So that means that as soon as somebody shares this link with you and you learn about it, you can start billing it. Congratulations. End of the seminar. See you later. Right, we're going to go through the details real quick. It was established to report some of the additional costs associated with running a practice during a public health emergency. That's the result of a respiratorily transmitted infection like COVID-19, which, is kind of a thing we're dealing with right now. It's going to work better if my slides will kindly go with me. Thank you. So the long description of this code, it's for additional supplies, materials, and clinical staff time over and above the things that are usually included in an office visit. So, right, you've got additional expenses associated with PPE, with cleaning, sanitation supplies that are only occurring because of this respiratory transmitted infectious disease. So this is designed to compensate your practice instead of forcing you to eat those costs like we've been doing since, February, March, depending on your state. It is a brand new code. It's never existed before, so it's going to have some questions about it that aren't answered yet. Just relax. You'll get through this. But as long as your state, county, city are in a declared state of emergency due to a respiratory transmitted infection, you can use the code. It accounts for all the additional supplies, materials, and staff time required because of this code, and the increased sanitation measures you're going to have to throw out for it. And it's made in response to the fact that this is an expense that practices have been dealing with, and you can't continue to run a business where you have additional costs without compensation. It should only be reported in an outpatient facility, so no hospital use of this particular code, and during like a pandemic, right? During COVID-19, and Lord knows the next time we'll be able to use it once this is finally wrapped up, which, given current estimates as well, like 2022. So users familiar with this code set, the 99070s, will recall that 99070 is a code that's similar to this enumeration, and it's designed for other services. Don't get the two confused. We're only talking about 072, but if you do look it up, there will be in the 2021 CPT codes a note saying, go look at this other code, you monster. Newly established code is different significantly from 99070. In that, 99070 is for supplies for like IVs or trays or drugs, and 99072 is for staff services and supplies for cleaning up during a pandemic. The new code also accounts for time, which is kind of a big deal. Time you spend or your staff spends counts towards this, not towards other E&M services. It will also cover the cost of up to 3 surgical masks, which adds to the value of the code, and your cleaning supplies that you have to use, whether it's for sanitizing your hands, disinfecting, wiping, spraying, cleaning, mopping, whatever you're doing that you didn't do last year because of this. Only report it once per person per date. That's straightforward. The instance in which the noted staff activities are performed by you instead of your staff still counts. It just do not count that time towards another separately billed service. So no cheating and double dipping and being like, oh my gosh, I'm spending 10 more minutes cleaning. I can throw that onto an E&M code. Knock that off. That's not appropriate. Clinical example provided by the AMA so we can start to get our head around what this applies to. A 65-year-old female shows up to your office for treatment for anything, and it's during a public health emergency as defined by law, so it's got to be declared by the government, due to respiratory transmitted infectious diseases. Really hard clinical example to wrap your head around is pretty much every time somebody walks into your office from now until your state's emergency status is lifted by your governor, or maybe it's a county or a city, depending on how your particular state is managing the situation. There are no current recommendations on modifiers for this code. 5.9 is used as a modifier about 38% of the time for 070 code submissions. So you could argue that it could be appropriate in this code, but this code has significantly different verbiage from 070 that would essentially nullify the necessity of a 5.9 modifier. So there's not a right hard answer because, again, we're 3 days out from the code being created and released. So these things just haven't been hashed out. I mean, for modifiers, you're going to be looking primarily towards payer policy, and the payers haven't had a time to create a policy on the code, let alone a fee schedule for us to look at. So here's notes on a 5.9 modifier you can read for yourself by downloading the handouts if you feel like you need to. I'm not going to read everything for you. We've got a time crunch going here. 99072 is applicable during a public health emergency. So it's got to be declared by law by an official. Another Q&A, right? What type of patient encounters? Any of them where they're coming into your office during a public health emergency. So that's really fantastic. There's no specific diagnosis associated with the code that you have to be aware of. It's just literally everything. This is not for just chiropractors or just medical doctors. It is for everybody in the medical profession. So share it with everyone that you know that you like and would like to help out with their practice. Keep them in business so we can all stay in business together. What documentation is required? There's got to be evidence that there's an epidemic, right? A state of declared emergency due to a respiratory transmitted disease. Again, that evidence could be in the state and national records. It doesn't have to be in your note. That's a little bit ridiculous. But that being said, each third-party payer gets to develop their own payer policy and requirements for documentation. And at this point, there are literally none. So just make your choices and adaptations as information emerges. I'd probably start by saying service was provided during a public health emergency as the result of a respiratory transmitted illness. Just literally quote what the AMA has said. Just throw that into your note and move forward. Can you report this with 99070? If you were reporting 99070 prior to today, yes. If you weren't reporting it prior to today, stay away from that code. Don't cause yourself problems. People who use it know what it's for. If you're not using it, it's because it doesn't apply to you. What's the value of the code? Excellent question. That's the kind of stuff I like, right? How much is this going to make me in practice? Depends on how much your payer pays for it. There is no determined RBRVS for this yet, so there's nothing to base that decision on. The best we can do is look at the most similar code, which is 99070, to see what that fee is and come up with a fee based on that. The fee, I know we can't discuss fee schedules per se. I'm not giving you any advice on your fee schedule. I'm giving you information that's publicly available if you're willing to pay $1,500 a year. And that's the UCR for 99070 according to the AMA and Innovi Health. That's $60.38. So that gives you a point of reference from which you can determine your own independent fee schedule using whatever pre-existing protocol and or methodology you have in place for your fee schedule system within your office. I am not in any way saying charge this. Please don't. Charge your fee based on this perspective so you can look up and determine what's appropriate for your practice. I appreciate your time. Again, trying to get through this as quickly as possible in a pre-recorded format. If you all have any other questions, all the resources are here for you. It's self-contained. If you ever need continuing ed hours, just like every year for the rest of your life, please look us up in the future. We provide hours for most states, and it's always live, so you can ask questions. Sorry, I can't answer them today. But, getting this out is more important than plugging and promoting my business. Thank you all for your time. Continue to help people. I hope nothing but the best for yourself and your practice as we get through this hot, steaming mess. Until next time, enjoy your life, man. Dude, lady, y'all.